الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Is my voice reaching the back of the musalla? جزاكم الله خير. عليكم السلام. جزاك الله خير. بارك الله فيك. طيب السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما واجعل تفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل فينا ولا منا شقيا ولا محروما. اللهم تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to session number 7. It's been already 7 sessions, subhanallah. 2 months, because we missed one week. So we're halfway through the class. Inshallah, there's going to be about 13 or 14 sessions. So we do have our midterm coming up. By the way, if you're joining us just to listen, you don't have to worry about a midterm. I don't want to scare anybody away. So you're more than welcome to stay just to listen, to learn. You can take this course as part of the IDA as an audit course, where it's a little bit more involved than just listening. You have access to the Google Classroom and the material and the videos, inshallah ta'ala. And of course, if you're a credit student, you will get credit as part of the IDA program that inshallah is part of the academy of the center that we're building, inshallah ta'ala. One day, inshallah, for perhaps that it becomes certified post-secondary education. Perfect. So we do have our midterm. The midterm is on, well, it depends on this, right? So it depends on the survey. We did send out a survey over the Google Classroom for the credit and audit students to select which day in Ramadan you want the halaqah, because this time definitely will not be popular. I'd probably be kicked out. It's almost Isha time. Oh, it is past Isha time, but in Ramadan it would be 9 o'clock. So it's not going to work, and people are going to be breaking their fast and whatnot. So the proposals were Saturday or Sunday, and there were 2 time slots each. It looks like the most popular out of 12, 50% selected Sunday right after Dhuhr, 2 to 3:30. And I think we confirmed that there is no issue, nothing here at that time. So that will be, inshallah ta'ala, the time that we're going to be meeting. So inshallah, we get the ajr of praying Dhuhr Jama'ah, right? That's in Ramadan, that's fantastic. Gives you time to sleep in, because we did this last year at 12 noon and 1 or 2 people showed up. So I don't blame people. They stay up all night praying, so no problem, inshallah ta'ala. The exam, therefore, will be on the weekend of the 22nd, 23rd, I think it is. Awesome. Can you confirm that? Is that Sunday, March 23rd? It's Sunday at 2 o'clock p.m. So that weekend is March 23rd? Okay. All right. I thought I could rely on you, but no. March 24th. So Sunday, March 24th at 2 p.m. The exam will be only an hour and a half. So the length of the class. If you want more time, you can. It's up to you. But those that are credit must take it. Audit, if you want to take it, no problem. If you just want to see how you're understanding the Quran, get some feedback, ahla wa sahla, no issues with that. If you just want to do the exam and take it home with you, again, just for your own, you're more than welcome to do that, inshallah. March 24th. So it'll be the time of the class. So March 24th, there is no class. March 24th, there is no class. Okay? That's going to be the exam time. But we're Sunday at 2 p.m. once Ramadan starts, inshallah. So Ramadan, our last class before Ramadan will be March 5th, the Tuesday. So the following class will be on the 17th. The 17th. Okay? So the 6th will be 6th or 5th? 5th will be the last Tuesday, and then the 17th will be the next halaqah. So it's about, almost 2 weeks. طيب, let's get started, inshallah ta'ala. Today we're going to be covering, I don't have the clicker. Can I trouble you just to, okay. We're going to be covering two surahs today. They're shorter surahs that are frequently recited. They're actually two of my favorite ones in Juz' Amma, Surah Al-Zalzala and Surah Al-Adiyat. These two surahs, there's something special about them. So inshallah ta'ala, I can communicate that with you to you today. The first one is Surah Al-Zalzala. Again, we are in the last cluster of Juz' Amma. I'm not going to talk every week and review every single one of the clusters and what it addressed. But this cluster really talks about Islamic values, important principles and values in Islam. And we already covered the surahs before, from Surah Al-Duha to Surah Al-Bayyinah last week. So if you'd like to access any of that material, it's online. Again, only if you're audit and credit. If you'd like to sign up to be audit to access it, you're more than welcome to, inshallah. Today we're going to be talking about Surah Al-Zalzala. Surah Al-Zalzala is unique. It talks about judgments, but also from the perspective, or it talks about the testimony of Mother Earth regarding the actions of its children. Mother Earth is addressed on the Day of Judgment and is asked to reveal what it's experienced and witnessed from her children. And based on that, the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come. So this is really focused on, obviously, the Day of Judgment. Now, a lot of surahs talk about the Day of Judgment. There's not one surah that covers the entire Day of Judgment. Each surah comes to talk about a particular perspective. So if you actually take Juz' Tabarak, Juz' 29, every surah in Juz' Tabarak has an element of the Day of Judgment, right? But it's all from different perspectives. Surah Al-Zalzala is unique because it talks about it from a different perspective. When this surah was revealed, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was with the Prophet ﷺ and he started to cry. فقال له رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما يبكيك يا أبي بكر? What made you cry, O Abu Bakr? And Abu Bakr responded and said, أبكتني هذه السورة, Surah Al-Zalzala. This surah made me cry. So the Prophet ﷺ, obviously it's a very powerful surah. He said, he responded to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he said, لو أنكم لا تخطئون ولا تذنبون لخلق الله أمة من بعدكم يخطئون ويذنبون فيغفر لهم. That if you were an ummah that did not make mistakes or did not commit sins, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have replaced you with an ummah that does make mistakes, that does commit sins, and so that He can forgive them. And so this is reassurance to Abu Bakr, who had a very soft heart, of course, radiallahu anhu, and this surah triggered a lot of emotion for him. And it should for us as well. This surah was revealed, it's a Meccan surah, as you can tell obviously from the theme. So we're going to be reading it together. And by the way, just keep it in mind that Quran is, this term that we use today in today's world, green, right? Quran is a green book. That the terminology of environmental awareness and taking care of the environment. The Quran is a green book. Obviously, throughout the Quran it talks about that, but certainly in the surah. And we'll see it, inshallah ta'ala. Let's start reading it together. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربك أوحى لها. Okay. إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها. So if the earth, zulzilat means to shake. And zilzalaha, remember when we said when there's a verb and a noun that come together back to back that are from the same root, it's to emphasize the epitome or the climax of that verb, right? The absolute maximum of that verb. We gave examples before. وَنَزَّلْنَاهُ تَنزِيلًا, for instance, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran in its, in perfection, in completeness. And so here, زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. Now, zilzal is shaking. It's like an earthquake, but not just any earthquake, an earthquake that changes the nature of something. What we've talked about already is on the Day of Judgment, everything that we know changes. The laws that we know, earth, how it works, change. We talked about that in a previous, in Surah, I think we did Surah Shams together, right, in this class? Yes, so, or not Surah Shams, Takwir. We didn't do it in this class. And Surah, and many surahs after that, we talked about the nature of how everything on the Day of Judgment changes. This surah tells you that the earth, your Mother Earth, will also change. To the point that, as we will see later on, that it amazes and surprises its children. The human, and we'll see later when he questions, says, وَقَالَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا لَهَا. What happened to it? Even you, Mother Earth, are changing. You, everything else we're seeing, that the skies are cracking, the rivers and the oceans are burning, water is burning. People that that you used to love and care for are running away from you. Even people are changing. Everything on the Day of Judgment changes, including the earth. And this is caused by, well, the initiating event is the shaking that changes everything. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the believers in Surah Al-Ahzab, هُنَالِكَ ابْتُلِيَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَزُلْزِلُوا زِلْزَالًا شَدِيدًا. That is figurative. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested the believers and shook them. A significant zilzal, right? Same word. Significant shake. That changed them. It changed their perspective, it changed their emotion, it changed their mindset. Some of them, هذا ما وعدنا الله ورسوله وصدق الله ورسوله. And some of them said, this is what Allah promised us, Allah and His Messenger promised us, and they are truthful. And some, it's ما وعدنا الله ورسوله إلا غرورا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet only promised us, vanity. So it changes your perspective. Zilzal is an event that changes everything on the Day of Judgment, including the earth. So this is a snapshot of what's going on. Now notice the terminology. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say al-ardu zalzalaha Allah. Right? And He didn't say subhanahu wa ta'ala إذا زلزل الأرض إذا زلزل الله الأرض إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها. Who's causing the earth to shake anyway? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not mentioning Himself here, because the emphasis is not on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power. It's not on His capability subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants our attention to the earth and what's happening to it, not on His power. Because what's about to happen is extremely important. So إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. Now, earth is essentially our mother. You know the expression Mother Earth. We came from it. مِنْهَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ وَفِيهَا نُعِيدُكُمْ. And we're going to go back to it. Your mom, you're 50% of your mom, 50 from your father, right? Your earth is 100% you're from. All the elements of the earth, are part of you. You consist of what's from the earth. You live on the earth. You drink from its fruits and its vegetables. You drink from its water. Earth has taken care of me and you from the time we were born till the time we die, and even after. We will stay in it until the hour. And so earth is essentially your mother. Essentially something that's cared for you for your entire existence. And so what happens on that day? وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا. And so on that day, the earth expels أثقالها. أثقالها is like its burden. So when we're talking about burden, the burden that the earth has kept for millions of years, everything it's witnessed that happened on top of it, from Sayyidina Adam's time till the end of time. Everything that it's witnessed, it's kept as a burden, holding on to, and on that day, it will release that burden. It will expel that burden. That heavy load, you say asqalaha, right? Asqal is like a load. You know when you say, I feel like I have a load on my back, right? You're not physically carrying something. It's a stress. It's an anxiety. It's a responsibility that you feel, or a burden or a secret that you've been holding on to, and it's weighing heavily on you. This is the burden that's in the earth, that it's being that's held on to from the beginning of time. وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا, and that day it will expel its burden, to the point where وَقَالَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا لَهَا, the human will say, even you, O mother, are changing. What's wrong with what's wrong with our Mother Earth? What happened to it? This is not what we know of our mother, the one that we lived on and enjoyed life and ate and slept, and this is what's happening. What's going on? What's wrong with it? وَقَالَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا لَهَا يَوْمَئِذٍ تُحَدِّثُ أَخْبَارَهَا, and that day it will hadith. Hadith is to convey or to communicate. أخبارها. أخبارها is its news. Everything that was witnessed by the eye or heard by the ear, or things that were not, they were unseen, that people did in secret. You never do anything in secret, by the way. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always watching. But even when you do things in secret, guess who's a witness on the day of judgment? The earth. The earth. You're on the earth, right? تحدث أخبارها. And if you actually look at the terminology, subhanAllah, أخبارها, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes himself as Alim, that means he knows. He knows everything. It's a very general term. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you notice in the Quran, when he uses the word khabir, which is from the same root as akhbar, it's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to something that is unseen or is hidden or is a secret. Wallahu bima wallahu alimun khabir, for instance. When the ayah talks about something that you can't see or it's hidden. And so the earth is going to reveal everything that happened on top of it, whether it was public or private, secret or revealed. It knows it because it's a witness, right? So it will confess all of the oppression, all of the murdering, all of the lying, all of the cheating, all of everything that's seen. It will, that's the time where it starts to, what's the term in English? When you sit down and you just start, kind of just regurgitate, not regurgitate, but it's kind of like, what's that? Vent, jazakallah khair. It starts to vent everything. It starts to vent. It can no longer hold its burden, right? It's venting everything, and nothing is secret. تحدث أخبارها. Why? بأن ربك أوحى لها. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who أوحى لها is from wahi. He listened to his orders, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired it to do so. So, and we're not here talking just about major, like all the injustices and the oppression, for sure. But even things that, ghiba and namima, people talked behind other people's backs, people cheated people, people belittled others, people, took people's rights, everything, including the good, of course. But, if you look at the terminology, it's a burden. So the burden is really referring to the evil that the earth has seen, right? So this is what's going to be, that's the change that happens where the earth has been silent for all of these thousands and thousands of years. That day, the earth also changes. Nothing stays the same. Everything changes. People change. Even prophets, except for the Muhammad ﷺ, every prophet will be nafsi, nafsi on the day of judgment. I can't help you. I can't help. Even the prophets of Allah and all of the creation will change. So let's continue reading, inshallah ta'ala. يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. So I just, there is a hadith that I wanted to actually mention before we move on to these ayats about أخبارها. So the Prophet ﷺ was asked, he asked the Sahaba, on the day when the earth tells its stories, do you know what its, akhbar, the news or stories that it will share? And the Sahaba said, Allah and His Messenger know best. And the Prophet said, فَإِنَّ أَخْبَارَهَا أن تشهد على كل عبد أو أمة بما عمل على ظهرها. That this akhbar, this news, this information, the stories that it's sharing is what it witnessed for every abd, every slave, from male or female, that basically lived on top of it. تقول عمل يوم كذا وكذا كذا 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 وكذا فهذه أخبارها, that it will say that this person did such and such on this day, and this is its stories and its news. So yes, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and this should be enough, that the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees us and hears us should stop us, whether we're in public or private, from committing any mistakes or sins. But just also know, if there's also a witness that's not going to vouch for you if you do these things, even if you're alone. And this is our Mother Earth. So let's continue, inshallah. يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم. That day, يصدر الناس. يصدر comes from صدر, which is chest. Chest is what when you walk, it's what comes out forward, right? So that's an expression to say people will walk forward, will proceed forward. يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا. Ashtata is they will be segregated or spread out or separated. Now there are different interpretations for يصدر الناس أشتاتا, that the people will depart from their graves, separated into categories according to their beliefs and deeds back in their lifetime. They will be divided into basically fractions or sects. Another interpretation is that they will emerge separately from their graves, and then they will, after they're basically judged individually, they will come into the groups through which they will enter either Jannah or the hellfire. And so ashtat in here, people are separated. People will be ashtat. They will come individually. لِيُرَوْا أَعْمَالَهُم. Yuraw comes from ra'a, to see. Yuraw is an expression used to make something visible, to make something seen. لِيُرَوْا أَعْمَالَهُم. أعمالهم is their deeds. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ, whoever does, مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ. مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ, at the time, early commentators of the Quran said, what is this mithqal, dharra? It's a tiny red ant or a speck of dust, or a weightless particle, basically dust, right? What we know now is there are smaller than that. It's the atom, right? The smallest physical element in anything is the atom. I don't know how many have access to a scanning electron microscope, but you can see atoms that are, in the angstroms. So that's, very, very small. You can't see it obviously with the naked eye, even with a regular microscope. So mithqal dharra, the weight of an atom. An atom. Think about an atom. It's an atom. It's subhanAllah. It's such an interesting choice of words, because an atom is something you can't see. And so there are actions, or there are things in people's hearts that nobody sees. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying everything. Not only there's a witness that's going to spew and vent everything, but on that day, everything to that minute scale will be seen. Mithqala dharra. it's complete and perfect justice. Nothing is gone because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just. And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also merciful. So we always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to treat us with His mercy and not with His justice. And that's actually a dua we should be making, inshallah. Now, what did the earth vent? The earth doesn't judge. Allah is the judge. And if you notice here, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى. Whoever does an atom's weight of khayr. Khayr is a very general term for goodness. It didn't say hasana. It says khayr. Because hasana is dependent on your aqidah, your religion. Different religions had different forms of, there are different laws of jurisprudence and different perhaps actions that were emphasized over others, right? We have the Sharia of the Prophet ﷺ, that overall they're very similar, but there are differences in rulings for sure, right? But it didn't say hasana, it said khayr, because also earth can't tell what's a hasana and what's not. All it can see is general. This is khayr and this is shar. And the choice of words here is extremely beautiful. And just to tell you, anything in any category, whether it's religious or non-religious, if it's khayr, you will see it. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى, you will see it. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. And whoever does a atom's weight worth of evil, very general, shar, not sayyi'ah, shar, they will see it. So this is what the earth will reveal on the Day of Judgment when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires it to do so. And the people will obviously come and they will face their accountability. Now, the fact that these two sections of the surah are together means that the word of Mother Earth is going to weigh heavily. It's going to matter to our accounts. It's not just, it's not just, okay, tell me your burden, tell us your burdens and no, whatever the earth says will matter. Our destiny, wherever we end up, will be based on the testimony of the earth. Otherwise, why is it mentioned here? It will matter. So we really need to think about what we do, number one. So all of our actions, but I do also want to focus on that environmental aspect, that green aspect. How are we treating the place where we get our sustenance and live? Because you and I were created from elements of this earth. It's not another place that Allah created our elements and then He brought us here. We are made from earth. How are we treating earth? That's the first question. How do we, do we work to better the environment that we live in? Are we careful with the resources that the earth provides us with? Water, food, or are we wasteful? The energy, do we leave lights on? Do we, how, these are resources and they're finite. They're finite. How well do we take care of what the earth provided for us? And how well do we take care of the earth? Do we do our best to ensure that it's clean? From the land to the water to the air that we breathe? How well do we take care of that? Is that even on our radar? And I'll tell you the answer from now. Muslims, unfortunately, are behind the eight ball on this. We as a community are extremely behind other communities. Unless people are studying in a particular area, hardly do you see somebody in communities of Muslims step up forward to vouch for things that will help reduce carbon footprint, greenhouse gases, and that sort of thing. I'm telling you, I work for an oil company, and within the oil company, we're trying to move to low carbon fuels or no carbon fuels. There's a balance between using the resource, but being careful of what you're providing the environment. And so there's a big push, even within these industries, to move to that. How, as a community, are we doing it? Next time you come to an iftar or a suhoor, look at how much waste. Do people bring their own plates? Do people still use styrofoam plates? Or do we, at least we're, in between, it's paper, still waste, still coming from trees. It's one use and it's done, right? When we recycle, and I'm sorry I'm going into this because I'm really passionate about these things. Recycling, people just don't know how to recycle. People think it's in the blue box, it's good. No, it's not good. If your piece of plastic that you're recycling has any food residue, one piece of thing, and it goes into a truck that has everything else is clean, that whole truck will go to landfill. It will not be recycled. We got to clean the plastic. We got to wash it like we wash plates. Unless you want to send it to landfill, and our landfills are expanding. So there's a lot of things that we don't know as a community even. And this is the first question I'd like to pose. The second question is, another deeper question. What will Earth say about us? What will Earth say about us? Right? We think sometimes, when we die, what will people say about us? But people will remember certain things. Most people will remember how you made them feel. They won't remember necessarily what you said. They may remember some things, but subhanAllah, the insan their memory is triggered by emotion. It's not what you say, what you do for people, it's how you make them feel. That's people. The Earth, though, it's not how you make it feel. It's everything you've done. So we need to ask ourselves, what would the Earth say about us on the Day of Judgment? It will say something. What will it say? So we need to kind of think about that a little bit and contemplate. And this is why a lot of Sahaba, including Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, started to weep. We're accountable for every minute thing. And on top of that, you have a witness that is going to speak about what you did, how you treated it. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who are going to be successful on that day and that will get positive, inshallah, testimony. But it is an important surah to contemplate and think about. Any questions before we move on to Surah Al-Adiyat? Separated, ashtat. So it's divided or separated. Yeah. Okay. No questions? Fairly straightforward, inshallah? Okay. Anybody want a stretch break, or do we continue and finish 10 minutes early? Okay, let's continue, inshallah. طيب, let's get to, inshallah, Surah Al-Adiyat. Again, one of my favorite surahs in the Juz'. It's incredible because of the analogy. It's such a beautiful surah. The surah talks about the value of loyalty. The value of loyalty. And it compares the behavior of loyalty between two creations. So we'll talk about that, inshallah ta'ala. Surah Al-Adiyat is also early Meccan, like Surah Al-Zalzala. And of course, if you look at all the early surahs in Mecca, they're short. Not all of them, but most of them are short, like very short. Most of them are short, but the longer ones are ayat that have to do with ahkam normally, and so those are typically in Medina. But they were easy pills to understand. They were very clear for the Sahaba to fathom and live by, to establish, obviously, Islam early on. And so Al-Adiyat is one of those very beautiful but very short surahs as well. I want you, as we're reading, or at least, inshallah, when I'm translating, to turn on your imagination, okay? Because the first part of it is actually quite, the words are beautiful, and it paints a very beautiful picture. Let's read together, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعاديات ضبحا فالموريات قدحا فالمغيرات صبحا فأثرن به نقعا فوسطن به جمعا. All right. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا. Adiyat is referring to horses. Okay? Adiyat is referring to horses. Now, adiyat comes from the term adu. Adu. Now, what is adu? Is to run quickly towards a goal or an objective. Right? It's to run quickly, but towards a specific goal or destination. It's different than jari. Jari means also to run, but with no particular destination or objective. Okay? So, adu and jari. So when somebody's playing sports like basketball or soccer, they say, yajri. This person is running. But when you're talking about track and field, for instance, they call somebody who's sprinting the 100-meter dash adda, because there's a goal. I got to reach the spot as fast as I can. So adda is to refer to running quickly towards a particular destination or a goal. So al-adiyat are the ones that are running as fast as they can. Turn on your imagination. As fast as they can towards a goal. And of course here it's referring to the horses. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا. Now, وَالْعَادِيَات, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking an oath. Is taking an oath. And it's a beautiful oath. He's swearing by the running horses, ضَبْحًا. ضَبْحًا are those that gallop. That deep gallop that comes from deep in your chest, your cavity, right? And it could be referred, used for the dhabh could be used for as humans, like if they're coming from deep from their cavity, or other animals, but mainly used for horses. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا. So now you're thinking about horses that are running so fast towards a target, and they're galloping and panting. It's actually panting more than galloping. It's a heavy pant that comes from deep from your chest cavity. So that's the first oath. فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا. So notice how Allah started this, not with وَالْمُورِيَات, started with فَالْمُورِيَات. What's the difference? You want to try?
If it was وَالْمُورِيَات, it would be a different oath, but this is the same oath, but it's continued.
Absolutely. So if it's wa, it means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking an oath by something else. But if it's fa, that means that oath is connected to the one before. فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا. فَالْمُورِيَات, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring, so this next oath is tied to the first one. And muriyat comes from ra'a, to bring something, muriyat, to make something visible. Okay? So, فَالْمُورِيَات, they're making, as they're running as fast as they can, and they're panting really loud, they are causing muriyat for you to see what? Qadha. Qadha comes from qadh, which are sparks. You know the horseshoe, when it hits rock, it starts to spark. See that mental image? Are you seeing that imagination? Horse is running so fast towards a goal, panting, and running to the point where you can see sparks everywhere. That's how fast they're running. So bear with me, inshallah, to see all this is beautifully tied together. فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا. فَالْمُغِيرَات, al-mughir is the one who attacks. So again, fal, it's another oath tied to the first two. And these horses are on the attack. They're on the attack. Of course, they have someone who's riding them. فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا. When are they attacking? In the early hours of the morning. The very early hours. Not during the afternoon, not during the evening. The very early hours. فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا. فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا فَأَثَرْنَ بِهِ نَقَعًا. أثرنا comes from athar, which means to raise. Naqa is dust. So they're running so fast. Sparks are everywhere. And the dust is just being lifted up. You know, have you ever seen maybe in movies where horses run and you just see clouds and clouds of dust that cover everything? That's how fast the horse is running towards a destination in the early hours. And it's going not just as leisure, it's going somewhere to attack. It's going somewhere to attack. It's not a pleasant place. Right? فَوَسَطْنَ بِهِ جَمْعًا. And again, it starts with fa. They're all tied together. All of the oaths are tied together. فَوَسَطْنَ بِهِ جَمْعًا. Wasat is middle. And this horse lands in the middle of the jam', of the congregation or the group that's involved in the attacks and the fighting. Now, this is a description of the horse. Running fast as it can towards a destination while it's panting. Sparks are flying everywhere. It's doing this in the early hours of the morning to the point where dust is being lifted and you hardly can see anything. And it's going right in the heart of the battle. Not in the periphery, not on the outskirts, in the heart, right in the middle. فَوَسَطْنَ بِهِ جَمْعًا. Okay, so what are all these oaths for? Well, let's think about the horse for a bit. The horse. The taker of the horse. Does anyone have horses, by the way? Anybody own a horse? Some people own horses and they leave them like with farmers to kind of look after them. To take care of a horse, you really just, it's very easy actually. That's why I ask. I know people that have horses. They don't take care of them directly, but it's very easy. You feed it a few times, a couple of times during the day. You leave it in the stable. You let it, maybe walk it, or it walks by itself in a fenced area. And maybe you'll kind of comb it or clean its horseshoes every now and then. And that's it. And if it gets sick, maybe you'll call a vet. And if it gets too sick to the point where it's too expensive, you might shoot it dead. Right? You don't read to it, bedtime stories. You don't drive it to school. You don't sit there and memorize, help it memorize Quran. You don't do anything for the horse. It's very simple. It's a very simple animal. But look what it does for you and me. It's willing to put its life on the line for its owner, to the point that it runs as fast as it can when it's commanded, to go into the heart of the battle with no hesitation. For who? For the owner. For what? What did the owner do? A little bit of water and food and a stable? For what? So what do these oaths have to do with anything? Let's continue reading, inshallah ta'ala. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ لَشَهِيدٌ وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. So the oath. Remember, what's important is the oath, but also what comes after the oath. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take all these oaths that are all connected for one punchline. And this punchline starts with a letter of emphasis. Inna al-insana لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. Indeed, the human to their Lord is kanud. Kanud, ungrateful and not loyal. Ungrateful and not loyal. The one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is tying the loyalty and the gratitude of human, is comparing the gratitude and loyalty of the human to the horse. The horse listens to its master, obeys its master. It's willing to sacrifice its life for what? Every horse is loyal, by the way. Every horse is loyal. If you ever ride horses, if the horse knows you're taking care of it, it's like clay in your hand. For what? And the insan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, indeed the human to their Lord is ungrateful and not loyal. The one who gave us everything from our sight and our hearing, our health, our life, our food, our shelter, our well-being, our families, our faith. And وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you count the favors of Allah, you won't be able to number them. If we are like that with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who there's no comparison, how Allah treats and gives us to how we give the horse. And the horse is willing to risk its life for us. And what about us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Where's the loyalty? Where's the gratitude? إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ لَشَهِيدٌ. And in that, the human indeed on that is a witness. The human deep down inside knows that they're not loyal. They know that they're not grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kund is a characteristic of not appreciating things. The horse appreciates. The horse appreciates. The human doesn't. Yet the human is given, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives and gives, the human always wants more. Now they may be happy and thankful for a short period of time, then they'll forget that ni'mah and they want more and more. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ لَشَهِيدٌ. And the human knows, deep down inside, they're a witness. They know they're not loyal. They know they're not grateful. وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. And the human, for the love of khair, is extreme. There's an extreme love for khair. And some scholars have said this khair is referring to material, material things or wealth. But in general, it's a very general, expression. It's khair. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives khair over and over. Yet the human is kanut. Let's read the last ayah together. أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُ إِذَا بُعْثِرَ مَا فِي الْقُبُورِ وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ إِنَّ رَبَّهُمْ بِهِمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَخَبِيرٌ. So after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes oaths and describes the loyalty of the horse in a very beautiful and descriptive scene set, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, indeed, the answer to what follows the oaths is that the human is ungrateful and not loyal. And that even though they know that deep down inside and they love khair that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to provide. أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُ. Doesn't the human know when the bu'thira is scatter, مَا فِي الْقُبُورِ. So things in the graves when they're scattered, when they're expelled, it's talking obviously about the Day of Judgment, when people are expelled from their graves. Don't they know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, doesn't the human know that on that day when the graves are, it's interesting too because the graves, the reference here to the graves, and it's kind of similar to how it's expelling people, we talked about in the previous surah. وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. And doesn't the human know that the contents, not only of the earth that will be scattered, that what's in the hearts will be also expelled. وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. Why حُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ? Because where does gratitude and loyalty sit? They sit in the heart. I don't know and you don't know each other's loyalty, and we don't know each other's gratitude. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says on the Day of Judgment, the day when the earth is going to, the graves are going to be scattered, and the people are going to be thrown out of the graves. That same day when that happens, everything that was inside will be revealed. Our loyalty will be exposed, or lack thereof. Our gratitude will be exposed, or lack thereof. إِنَّ رَبَّهُمْ بِهِمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَخَبِيرٌ. Indeed, إِنَّ رَبَّهُمْ بِهِمْ, that their Lord of them, indeed, is لَخَبِير. Khabir, all-knowing, but all-knowing, khabir comes from describing what's visible and what's hidden. And what's hidden? Loyalty is hidden. Gratitude is hidden. Nobody sees these things. We see actions, but you can try to judge loyalty and gratitude with actions. But these are truly revealed when there are tests. So I'll tell you, horses are loyal creatures. You may not ask every horse to go into the middle of the battle, to risk their life for you. But they'll do it. The ones you ask, they'll do it. And the ones you don't ask, they'll do it if you ask them. But just because you don't ask them, they're not in the heart of the battle, that doesn't mean they're not loyal. We have to ask ourselves, even if we're not tested, are we grateful to Allah? Are we loyal? Because there will be a time that Allah will test us to expose that loyalty and that gratitude. And it will be definitely exposed on the Day of Judgment. Now we have to be careful. That loyalty, what's loyalty? You're doing something because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants it done a specific way. Our behavior is based on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded. A lot of people, and we have to be all careful of that, including, like, we always have to check ourselves. Are we doing something because we desire it? Kama tuhib or kama yuhib? Do you do things because you want to do them and you disguise them under the name of, or under the umbrella of fi sabilillah? Or are you really doing them because this is what Allah makes Allah happy? We need to ask ourselves these questions. And they may be good deeds, but when we look at deeds, it's not just about good or not. It's about prioritization. Sometimes we may pick these. Ramadan's a perfect example. People will come here, Taraweeh will be full, and then Fajr will be 2 lines. What's more important? Fajr is more important than Taraweeh. You guys have a shirt, right? What's the shirt? Yeah, Fajr is more important than Taraweeh, right? Our priorities. I mean, Taraweeh, you should try to come to all of them. Stay for the whole thing. Amazing. And I'm encouraging you to do so, but not at the expense of Fajr. We don't know how to prioritize as an ummah. We've lost that. And so do we do something because it feels right for us? Is it because we want to do it, or is it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants it? And this is something we have to ask ourselves, because at the heart of that is loyalty. We ask ourselves these questions to see how loyal are we to Allah versus how loyal we are to ourselves. The horse trusts you. The horse trusts you. And you're driving it to death. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't ask us, I mean, unless there's exceptional circumstances. But for the most part, I would say, in today's day and age, we're not asked to go into the middle of death. We're asked to use our faculties and our minds and different mechanisms to stop injustices and oppression. Yet we're still not loyal to Allah. So I hope that was beneficial. Any questions on Surah Al-Adiyat? It's a really beautiful surah. It's a great description. It's an early Meccan surah. This was before even fighting was prescribed. Allahu A'lam. Yes.
Humans are very rarely compared to animals. When they are, you can do this thing, then you're like this animal. Is this the only time we'll directly?
In al-insan, human, general, no specific group. How consistent are we? We may be grateful every now and then, but how consistent are we in being thankful to Allah, in being loyal to Allah, in being appreciative to Allah? It's a problem. The horse is always loyal. They're fascinating creation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, look at the horse. And the description is just phenomenal. Right? Sparks, dust everywhere. Running its full might. It knows where it's going, and it still does it. Risking its life for its owner. And you ask for what? What did the owner do? Any other questions before we close? طيب, Jazakumullah khair. We actually finished, we started earlier than usual, that's great. So we finished less than an hour, so Jazakumullah khair. A reminder, inshallah, that the assignment, first assignment which was posted is due March 5th, I think. 8th, sorry, it's Friday, you're right. I said, give them till Friday. Jazakallah khair. And then the midterm, inshallah ta'ala, on March 24th. The halaqa will, once Ramadan, so our last halaqa is going to be March 5th on Tuesday, and then Ramadan will be Sunday the I'm bad with dates, as you can tell, the 17th at 2 p.m. inshallah, after we pray dhuhr. So try to come for dhuhr. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Do we have an attendance sheet? Sister Nada is. Okay, Asam's going to get the attendance sheet. Please make sure you sign it to get, inshallah, the credit.